Good afternoon, folks. Jason Shepard here with the Anchor Room. We're going to talk about the installation of our dash overlay kit today in carbon fiber. I'm going to talk quickly about some of the tools we suggest you use during this installation. As you can tell in front of me, I have a felt tip squeegee, and the felt tip obviously is there so that we don't scratch the material. We have a microfiber towel to dab up any excess liquid, especially around those electronics. We want to make sure that, for one, we use the liquid sparingly, and if there is any, to dab it up as quick as possible. As you can tell, we also have the alcohol swabs here. 2 of them should be sufficient to clean the entire dash. This is an absolute must. A perfect installation is predicated by making sure that we obviously clean the surface that we're going to install the vinyl onto. We have a heat gun over here. A heat gun will facilitate in tapering some minor overlapping edges, if there's any fingers, and making sure that everything falls into place. You should not need the heat gun a lot, if at all. Last but not least, we have our water, and we tried this installation with our application fluid, which is soapy water, but it seemed like it was just too much. Honestly, most of these pieces can be installed dry. For the larger piece, which is the dash panel actually itself, water does seem to help somewhat. Alright, having said that, one other tip I think I want to lend is that perhaps cutting the individual pieces away from each other from that large sheet that you received may make it a little bit easier, so that you're not fussing with a big sheet during installation. Other than that, should be all of it, and let's go ahead and get started. The headlight trim bezel that I mentioned just a bit ago, we've removed the material from the backing paper, sprayed it with the application fluid, and we are now going to simply place it on the dash. And you'll see that the application fluid, obviously in this case, gives us an opportunity to reposition the material, getting it in place exactly where we want it. And we've also heard from a lot of people that sometimes the application fluid is a bit too slippery, that using just water by itself does a great job also. Alright, so we're trying to find that perfect placement here, and once you do, just use your finger and carefully move out the excess application fluid and or water, and then eventually she will stick in place neatly. Using a microfiber towel to dab up any excess fluid, obviously that's what it's for. As you can tell, it still moves fairly well, and of course a perfect installation is predicated on the fact that you clean the surface with some isopropyl alcohol or alcohol wipes, whatever you want to call them. Alright, looks like that does it for that place. That's piece, and we'll move on to the next one. I'm going to do my best to get you an idea of how the radio bezel piece goes on. It actually looks a lot more difficult than it truly really is. And ironically, having said that, the complete opposite of that would be that it is one of the more difficult pieces, since it's a little flimsy when you hold it. But ironically, when you get it in place, you'll see what I mean. You get one piece lined up and started, and the rest falls right into place. You start with the top left piece right here. Just get that lined up, and it's got a taper or a angle to it, so you can see exactly what I mean. And once you get it started, then you can just follow the material down. I used very little water on this piece. I guess one of the main reasons is probably because I'm dealing around electronics, but the other reason, it really doesn't need too much more. I noticed this just needs to go in just a bit more, so we get it up. Oops, tapered nice and tightly. The material is very forgiving, as you can tell. There we go, perfect. And in corners like this, you may need to, use your squeegee and just kind of press it in place. But as you can tell, once you get that one corner started, it seems that everything else pretty much falls right in place. Just take your time, be patient. Let me go back up this time. And with most other vinyls, you have to kind of be careful not to let it fall in on itself. Again, like I mentioned, this stuff is it's pretty forgiving. It's kind of nice. As I mentioned earlier, this is the stuff that has the air release channels also. Just pick it up just a bit more. Until you really bear down on it, and that's what that whole air release stuff is all about. Like I said, unless you bear down on it really hard, it's pretty forgiving and you have an opportunity to keep working with it. That's pretty much it. As you can tell, you just have to work on the little pieces down here at the bottom and then the absolute bottom, and then we'll be done. Just for an additional mention, I did use a heat gun. There were a couple of pieces that I wanted to make sure they're absolutely perfect. If you look around here on that, I guess, chrome bezel trim, I wanted to make sure that the material was absolutely perfect. And if you look at that lower trim also, this stuff is cut so meticulously perfect and templated just right to make sure it's a perfect fit. I just used the heat gun in place to make sure it absolutely fit perfect. Piece, the bigger dash panel, I guess it's the most intimidating piece for most people. I'm going to miss this slightly in the back side to give us a slight bit of repositionability, which is kind of nice since it is a larger piece. But as you notice, I kind of stuck it to the dash as a whole piece, obviously not in place, just to kind of give us a little bit of ability to work with it. Again, trying to keep us away from the electronics since it is somewhat of a wet install, but see how easy it is to just peel it back up and position it back in place until you get it exactly where you want it. There we go, that's probably good right there. Move its way down the dash. Peel the left side up actually first and spray on it just a little bit. All that contour on the dash, perfect. On the top side, around those vent holes and gauge holes, it's exactly perfect. And just don't press down on it at this point until you get it exactly where you want it, and then we can work with the material and get it to lay down exactly where we want it. Again, this is that pressure sensitive film, so as soon as you do apply a little bit of pressure to it, it's going to have a tendency to stick. So, and I'm pretty happy with where everything is. The biggest deal is obviously around the gauges, since they're going to be a telltale sign of whether everything is straight or not. But at this point, looks like we're in great shape. We're working our way around the corner over here, and then just the dash piece on the top. Make sure everything is straight, and then we should be done. Take a overview shot here in a second once we're completely finished, so I don't bore you to death. I want to give a kind of a close-up shot. This is an area where I think another, or where a heat gun actually will do a little help. As you can tell, we got a couple of fingers here. Let me show you how nice this heat gun will take care of this problem. We're just going to add a little bit of heat, and we're literally going to just, I guess, move our thumb. And what we're doing is we're actually tapering the material to the surface that it's on, which is obviously three-dimensional. But more than anything, when we're moving the moisture from underneath the dash, we are immediately evaporating, and that's without a doubt what's doing the job here. As you can tell, look at that, perfectly straight. All those fingers are gone. Now I'm just going to use a squeegee to get the areas completely flat and get that excess moisture out.